We've all done it. Your teenager pushes your buttons or your spouse doesn't follow through and you just snap. Well, it's in those moments when my next guest wants you to pause, create some space, and be more aware. In fact, Dr. Matt Townsend says emotional awareness is the ticket to a happier life and a longer life and all around better relationships. So he is here today sharing 4 principles of healthy emotional management. And if anyone can talk about it, you can. You've coached couples for 20 years. And this is, these are the kind of high emotion moments that you see all the time.
Well, and it's the thing I used to be most afraid of with me is, could I hold my head about me when everyone's losing theirs? Can I handle that moment? And what I found is it's actually a skill. It's something that humans are uniquely qualified to do. And if we do it and we learn how to kind of manage our own emotion, be aware of it, and then kind of regulate, it sets us apart from every other kind of animal. Most other animals just react. They immediately react to what they're feeling. We have the ability to actually think it through and then to calm ourselves down. Better response if we are willing to learn.
Yeah, and is that the main benefit, just that we can respond better?
Well, and then all of a sudden you have people that trust you more, you can live longer. So emotional management, all of life is about emotion, right? So being able to manage emotion, handle emotion, read emotion, sense emotion, lower emotion, increase your emotion, that is human 101, how we motivate each other, how we calm each other down. So this is really the core, I think, to human relationships.
Okay, you made me think I wish I had a joystick that I could just do that with my emotions. Okay, but instead you have 4 principles to help us center ourselves. So first, we have to be aware of our own control and contributions.
Yeah, every human being can increase awareness, right? And when you increase awareness, you start to understand what you can control about your emotion and what you can't. So by increasing your emotional awareness, it actually puts you back in the driver's seat. So anytime you go off, blow up, get mad, whatever you do, some of us fight, some of us flight. All I want you to start to do is after it happens, sit back and take an inventory. Notice what happened. When you get emotionally hijacked, I call that, do you run away or do you fight? How do you fight? Do you start to get uglier? Does the conversation go faster? Do you start throwing out barbs? What do you do? Because the more you're aware of what's happening around you, by the way, notice what you're feeling. Notice where you're feeling it. Ask yourself, what was it about what Amy said that made me go there? And where did I go? And what did I feel? And then another really fun thing is, what's my earliest memory of going there? In that emotion and that feeling, where did I learn to do that? Is that something I learned when I was 14? Because a lot of times you might have an emotional response when you're 50, 54, and you might have actually learned it when you were 14. So if you start to just become aware of how your emotions work in you, don't just run from them, don't just avoid them, and don't just hide them. Learn. What part of it are you?
That's a lot of analyzation.
Yeah.
Self-analyzation. Okay, so another principle that emotionally healthy people practice, not being intertwined with our own thoughts. I feel like that's what you were just telling me to do.
Well, no. The difference is don't let your emotion connect to the thought and it become your identity. What you want to start to do is suspend the thought and really try to diffuse from it instead of fuse to it. So the minute my identity is fused to what I'm thinking, the minute I make it a fact that it's unchangeable, it's irreversible, it's who I am and it's catastrophic, anytime I'm doing anything like that, then my body and my fight or flight will turn on as if this is a major survival thing. What we tend to do as humans is we do 4 things. We highlight and embellish any problem. So what we'll immediately do when something comes up, like, oh, sorry, I'm gonna be 15 minutes late. And you're like, oh, great. Well, now we're all late and we're never gonna get anywhere, and then I'm not gonna be able to get my favorite meal, and then, so we start to embellish it. You don't have to embellish a thought. You can just let someone say something and let it just sit there and float. We make self-judgments about it. Oh, so I'm not worth your time? I'm not worth your time, so you're gonna show up late because we're irrelevant. Or another thing we do is we make comparisons. Well, you would never be late for Stacy. You're only late for me. You're never late for Stacy. So now notice I'm fusing to it, and then notice your mind immediately starts to add contradictory and more complicated stuff. And then the last thing we do is we make predictions. And we start predicting kind of an awful future because of what you're doing. Oh, well, then that means this, that, and the other. Or you always do it. Or even when I'm talking to you the next time, well, don't be late. You're always late.
Holding that
over
their head.
And now I'm making the prediction. Once you fuse to the thought, you become the thought. Most of our thoughts aren't even real. Most of the thoughts aren't even founded or grounded in something that's actually true right now. Because I was late last week has nothing to do with if I'm late this week. And if I have a consistent habit of being late, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you. So
yeah, that's what
careful.
I noticed with two of those things that you said is they were making it about you. And so
which is you fusing to it.
yeah, so when you say that we pause and make sure we don't do that, is that the whole key? Just pausing and noticing that that's something we might do?
We call it suspending. It just allow the thought to come in and just float. You don't have to jump on the boat. You can just allow the boat to be there, let it float, and then what you'll notice a lot of times is if you don't fuse to it, the emotion of that idea or thought will dissipate in about 90 seconds.
Yeah, I saw that that was your note here. Give yourself 90 seconds to cool off. That's a lot of time. So if you say something that I think might like trigger me, for me to sit there for 90 seconds, that's a big span of time.
It might be for some people, but if I were your boss and I said something that triggered you and ticked you off, you'd probably find 90 seconds to think it through before you had to say something or before you fought for it. I look at it this way. When somebody throws some emotional junk at you, it's almost like, have you ever been around somebody that passed out in front of everybody and they just dropped to the floor? Immediately what we do is we go to their aid and we ask everybody to back off. Let's give them some air. And then what they need is just some time and space. And in time and space, they can recover. Then we can actually make sense of what happened.
Okay, well, you made me just feel like I'm a little bit of a good mom because I did have this thing with my daughter where, because she would fly off the handle, and I said, anytime you need a minute, just tell me I need a moment.
Give me a moment,
because then
Mom.
I would quit my
Isn't
heartbeat.
that powerful?
And she still does that to this
Does
day.
she?
She's at college. She'll be like, I need a moment, and we'll like.
And then breathe, breathe through it, and then regather yourself, and then try to make sense, if you're self-aware, why you were offbeat a little bit and a little upset, and then come back and say, okay, I want to talk to you about something you said, and it kind of triggered me, and this is kind of where I went. Then you can start to actually lead the emotion to a healthier place.
Thank you, Matt. I like that. Okay, and finally, we can't let our mood or our circumstances make decisions for us.
At some point, we have to respond, not based on mood and circumstance. That's called reactivity. We want to respond on proactivity based on our highest values, principles, goals. So in that space, when your daughter's away, she could go figure out, what do I want most in my relationship with my mom? I want to be close. I don't want to be triggered. I want her to understand me. Okay, so what can I go back and say, and what should I say? And she could reach back into her principles and then bring, well, I want to have a close relationship with her. So, Mom, I want to be honest. And when you said this, it triggered me because it made me feel like I was 12 again.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to feel 12 around you. And so I appreciate that you care, and I want you to know I'm in college. You can let me go.
That is the ultimate goal. So helpful. Now, the other thing is you're really helping people with this 10-day marriage makeover. How can we sign up?
So if you go to matttownsend.com, just go look up the 10-day marriage makeover. And part of what this is for is to stop that same emotional spiral in your marriage that tips over the marriage. We're going to do an assessment, and then we send you videos out to show you step by step how to kind of reverse that spiral that your marriage might be going through.
So great for all of us. Thank you so much, Matt, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Appreciate it.